How's it going, gamers? Chongo here, and today I've got a gameplay commentary for you guys, and the gameplay is of Black Ops, and today the commentary topic is going to be pretty much on whether games are getting better or worse, and sort of about this generation and how games sort of feel like they're declining in quality recently. So let's get into it. Now, this topic came off Icy Rhythm's topic. I'll put a link to his channel as well as his video in the description so you guys can go and check that out. But he was pretty much saying that are games getting better or worse, and he pretty much concluded that games are sort of getting better in some ways and are getting worse in others. And my personal opinion is this generation, the reason that we're starting to feel that games are getting worse is because this is the longest generation we've ever had of a video game console. And what's happening is many developers are just doing the same thing over and over again. I don't mean like they're making the exact same games, but they're just pumping out sequels like crazy. I mean, even some of the games I like Assassin's Creed, for example, they're onto their 5th game already, and it's a really good game, but it's just when you keep doing the same thing, eventually everyone gets used to it, and yeah, that new feeling goes away, and I think that's why some people are starting to feel that games are getting worse, even though they're not really. It's just we're getting heaps and heaps of the same thing. Now, the reason I think this is happening is bigger companies that make like the AAA titles are pretty much just deciding that if they keep making sequels, they're still going to make a profit, whereas if they take a risk on something new, they could pretty much lose everything. So they're trying to play it safe and just making multiple sequels, and I think eventually this is probably gonna blow up in their face, but it's taking a long time, as opposed to if a company took a risk on something and it failed, then they would be hit a lot worse than if they just kept pumping out sequels. And that's why I think hopefully next generation we're going to see a lot more indie games, and hopefully some of the bigger companies will take a little bit more risks instead of just pumping out sequels as much as they are at the moment. And that's why I think so far that most of these indie games that have started like coming out seem to be blowing up a lot bigger than some of these other games. Like, for example, Minecraft. That pretty much exploded just because it was a really awesome idea. It was something new and something that no one had really seen before. So I'm hoping next generation we're going to see a lot more indie games and hopefully a lot more creative games, since obviously indie developers have a lot less to lose than bigger companies, because if the bigger companies stuff up, they make a bad game and they lose a lot of profit, whereas if an indie company does it, they're not really losing much because they didn't put as much money as some of these AAA companies decide to put into like Call of Duty and all this kind of stuff. So I'm hoping with consoles like the Ouya launching next year that there's going to be a lot more indie games, and hopefully this may push some of the bigger companies to decide to try something a little bit creative and something a little bit new instead of just pumping out these sequels. So hopefully that is something that we will see when the next gen consoles come around. And another reason I think that some of these bigger developers aren't really going in and creating these new and unique games is because if you want to go and try and create something completely new, you need to go through and make all these new character models and all these new buildings and all these kind of new stuff that's a lot harder to do, whereas if you just stick with what you know, for example another Call of Duty, you take the framework from the previous one and then you add your changes onto that. So it's not really as hard as making a whole new thing. So I think it'll be very interesting next gen to see whether these developers decide to keep going on with these sequels, or they start a whole new franchise from the beginning, like day one when these consoles are launching. And maybe that's why they seem to be pumping out sequels at the moment, because besides just making these sequels, all they're doing is trying to make this whole new game that's supposed to be launching next year or whenever the next gen consoles are supposed to be launching. So even though next gen consoles doesn't really impact the PC, I still think it sort of impacts in the sense that these developers are mainly making their things for consoles and then they add a few extra things for PC. So I still think when next gen consoles come out, we will see some better games released on PC, just because that consoles are catching up to PC standards, so therefore we're going to see a lot better games, and yeah, hopefully we'll be seeing a lot of newer games on both consoles and on the PC. So I guess we're going to have to wait until next gen to see if some of this stuff actually is implemented and whether there'll be a massive increase of indie games on next gen consoles as well as PC, obviously. And it's quite interesting to think that this is actually the longest generation of consoles in history, so it's getting to the point where I think that developers aren't really sure what to do, pretty much, because they aren't really sure when the next generation consoles are coming out, or if they are, they've got inside information, so they're kind of thinking there's no point making some whole new creative thing if the next generation consoles is just around the corner. So anyway, this sort of brings me to the end of my commentary. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, give it a like, and if you've got any comments on whether games are getting worse in your opinion, put them below with some opinions and that kind of stuff. It's always good to read through your comments and reply to them. And yeah, if it's something to do with like sequels, what your opinion is on them, and if you want to see more creative games, or if you just want to keep seeing sequels such as Call of Duty. And if you want to become a member of the Wolfpack, just subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.